There is a particular microscopic fungus that's a really global problem in all cereal crops. And it has a rather long Latin name, which is called Fusarium graminearum. And this attacks the floral tissue, and when the fungus is invading into the floral tissue and into the grain, it actually produces a range of mycotoxins, which are very unhealthy to ourselves and animals and also the natural ecosystem. And to give you an example, if your breakfast cereal is contaminated with these, you'll be sick very shortly afterwards. What we've tried to identify is how exactly the fungus is growing in the tissue and particularly how it communicates with the plants. But we're also now following up and looking for particular small proteins that are secreted by the fungus and also these microscopic RNA molecules which actually will interfere with how the plant can then defend itself. We found through reading the literature that a long while ago another fungal species used to be called Fusarium graminearum but was actually incorrectly named. And it now has a new long Latin name, which is called Fusarium venenatum. And actually many of you know that by another name, which is called the QUORN fungus, which you can buy in your local supermarket as an alternative food source. And quite remarkably, these two organisms are actually really very, very close cousins, almost two brothers or two sisters. And therefore we can learn a lot about their different lifestyles and find out why one is such a beneficial organism providing food for humans, and the other one is so detrimental and causes a huge headache to the farmers, the food processors, and eventually the people that eat the food. The problem is that in a crop, say as wheat, and a floral disease, you have an enormous number of ears of wheat that you must try and control that come in quite late when the crop is quite big and bulky, so it's difficult for the farmer to get in. So the best solutions you can do are the ones that are going to go in with the seed, in with the genetics of the organism. We're certainly talking about gene editing, and we're also talking about a new strategy which is called either host-induced gene silencing or spray-induced gene silencing. You know a lot about the fungus and its genome, its complete blueprint basically of its genetic code, and that you select particular genes in there which you know the fungus requires to cause disease. And by manipulating the plant, you actually come up with a way of silencing those genes as the fungus arrives in the plant and stop it in its tracks. Our current wheat really isn't fit for purpose going forward. We're not having the genetic gain that we need in the next decades or so to keep up with the demands for human and animal consumption. And it's also being maintained, a lot of it, through applications of increasing amounts of chemistry, whether it be protective chemistry or actually fertilisers. And so we have to make the crop more resilient to climate change, and particularly where there are new pests or existing pests and pathogens there which the crop is so far very susceptible to, and we lose yield. First of all, the farmer's got to change his habits of what crops he grows. He must go back to a longer rotation with more species in it. That's essential. So in our scenario, this case, if you grow maize and then you follow it with wheat, you're really heading for disaster. But on top of that, there's going to be a need, I think, to lower the amount of chemistry that's applied to the crop and do a lot more with the actual genetics that comes with the seed. So that the protection is there. Every day the crop grows, flowers, and then provides the food for human consumption or animal consumption. I think future farms and future farmers will be very much skilled up with technology. They'll have a good repertoire of knowledge and access to knowledge by all sorts of conduits. And they will really know their farm and which particular fields and parts of fields will be able to produce well, and also which are the problem parts still, despite applying technologies to them. And then the crops will be selected that are good for those positions, and that should overall lead to better farm yields at farm gates happening. And that way we can actually have a more sustainable crop and a more resilient crop.